Welcome to Carroll Employment Television. I'm John Carroll.
And I'm Dr. Mark Fraser.
We're the show that matches employers with employees, and we give you the inside scoop on what employers are looking for in the resume and during the interview process. Now, we understand there's a lot of midlife career changers out there, and there's a lot of people just getting out of school looking for jobs. Here on the set, we like to cover a few things. We like to showcase our employers that come on the show and showcase our candidates seeking employment on the show. But today we're going to cover a little bit about resumes. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and to get a job you need a resume. Dr. Mark, what is a resume and why do you need it?
Well, John, a resume is a simple document that basically outlines your experience and career objectives and goals from day one to the current time. And you're telling the employer what it is that you've done in your career, what skills you have, and why they should hire you.
Why do you need a resume? Well, I mean, honestly.
Yeah, the resume is the screening tool that the employer uses for the first cut when they look for qualified workers to fill jobs.
Now, how do I submit a resume? Let's say I've put this resume together, all right? I just think it's fantastic. Should I have someone look at it first? You know, should I leave it at that? Should I have them screen it, or should I just go ahead and, you know, email it over to John Carroll, CarrollEmploymentTV.com? What do we do?
Well, there's two answers to that question. The first thing is the more eyes that you have look at it, the better. Because once your resume hits an employer, many times that employer will send your resume to several people. So it's always good to be proactive. The advantage of sending your resume to Carroll Employment Television is that we'll actually go through and look at the person's resume. And if there are any changes that need to be made, generally we make those changes on behalf of the person that's applying for work.
Okay. Now, a cover letter. A lot of times when you go to submit a resume, you'll see an ad in the paper or online, and it'll say cover letter. Could you tell us how important, why is it so important to have a cover letter?
A cover letter is very important because that's the first thing that the employer looks at. And you explain to the employer why you should have that position that they're advertising for. It tells the employer, one, that you're interested, two, that you have the skills and qualifications necessary to perform the job, and three, simply, that you're interested in working for that employer and how to contact you and reach you. That's all that the cover letter is used for.
Now, I tell you, we understand that the job hunt process can be a very stressful process. The interview process can be stressful. You know, we're trying to take that out of the equation here. So again, if you have a resume, you want to submit it, or you just want some more information about Carroll Employment Television, we encourage you to visit us at CarrollEmploymentTV.com. Okay, Dr. Mark, I think we're going to talk a little bit about this right after the break.
Very good.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Carroll Employment Television. I'm John Carroll, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Fraser. We've been discussing some basic resume writing skills, kind of like resume writing 101. As we had mentioned before, there's a lot of people out there looking for work. You've got your midlife career changers, you've got your students coming out of school, and so in this episode, we're just covering some basic things here. As I've stated previously, we like to showcase our employers. We like to showcase some of the candidates looking for jobs. We invite you here on the set, you know, if you have an interest in joining us here on the set, you want to showcase your resume or your company, contact us at CarrollEmploymentTV.com. But today, you know, we're focusing on resumes, and I want to get right back to it with Dr. Mark because I think it's very important. What is the first thing that should be on the resume, Dr. Mark?
It's very basic, John. The first thing that you want to put on your resume is your name, address, how to contact you, so that would be your home phone, cell phone if you have it, and your email address. You would be surprised at how many resumes we receive that have a name and just an email address. And many times the employer, if they're located in Westminster, they don't have a clue if that employee is living in Annapolis or Union Bridge or where. So it's very important that you have that listed on your resume.
Okay. Now, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, in this new internet age, everyone's into email. I don't know of too many people that have landlines left, but you know, there's a lot of people with just a cell phone and an email, but you gotta have a phone number, okay? Whether it's someone from Carroll Employment TV that needs to contact you regarding your resume, or Dr. Mark, you can have a phone number, so let's put that in there. What else is in the resume, doctor?
Well, the next step after the contact information is, what is your objective? And this is where you list what your career objective is that you hope to accomplish through the various steps that you've taken so far in your working life. So if you want to be, let's say as an example, a director of something, what did you do in your previous experience to lead to that? What did you do in your education to help you achieve that level? So the employer looks at the career objective and they look to see how that matches to the job that they have currently available.
Okay, now I think I can't overstate it enough that the objective is very important. Okay, you've got an employer, he's got a stack of resumes. The first thing he's going to see is the objective. Okay, if you can't entice him with that, he's going to move on. All right, now, education. Let's cover that. What is in the education section?
Well, education is both the formal education that someone has, and it's also many of the training courses. It would be the apprenticeships, if that's applicable, any certifications, registrations that they may have, anything from a classroom, not on the job, but a classroom experience that would help that candidate succeed at that employer's job.
Okay, what's first? Do you put the experience first or do you put the education first in your resume?
You always generally use the experience first with the education that follows.
Okay, now, how many pages should a resume be?
Well, if you're someone that's just out of high school or let's say community college, probably a one-page resume would be adequate. Now, if you've been someone that's been out in the workforce for a number of years, 2 to 3 pages tops is a good summary of what your experience, education, and objectives should be.
Okay, what about references? Now, you know, not everyone has the references. You know, you're right out of school. What sort of references should someone have right out of school put on a resume, and what should someone, you know, with 30 years experience put on a resume regarding references?
Well, John, what I would recommend is, in most cases, never put your references right on the resume, right out of the gate when you're initially applying for a position.
Is that right?
You put your references to the, you give your references to the employer when you're asked for references. In other words, when there's mutual interest between the candidate and the employer and you becoming a serious candidate for that position.
Now, why is that? Why is it like that? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times what will happen is the candidates have to change their references depending on the type of position that they're applying for. So if they're applying for a position, let's say in Westminster, at a local employer, there are some references that will be more pertinent to that employer than, let's say, if they were applying for a job in Baltimore where those references aren't known.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. So, I mean, it is very important. If you'd like to have the doctor take a look at your resume, shoot it on over to carrollemploymenttv.com, or, well, I can say visit the website, or shoot to John Carroll at carrollemploymenttv.com, and we'll make sure the doctor takes a look at it. All right, let's say I want to start writing a resume, okay? Where do I start? Where do I begin? Give us, let's say I just lost my job, and I've got to put this together. And it's very overwhelming, and we can understand that. Break it down for us in its simplest format.
Sure. Well, I would start with a document that basically has your name and address, your career objective, your experience, your education and credentials, and references will be provided upon request. And that's the basic format. Now, sometimes if, again, you haven't done one of these or you've never done a resume, there's resources available at the library, on the internet, and at job service.
Okay, and I think it's also important to state, be yourself, okay? Don't portray yourself to be someone that you are not on your resume. It may come back to bite you, all right? But again, we'll be posting some key things on the website at carrollemploymenttv.com. And again, you can submit your resume to the doctor, have him take a look at it, and make recommendations. Doctor, we will talk more about this right after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Carroll Employment Television, the show that matches employers with employees and gives you the inside scoop on what employers are really looking for. And once again, we encourage you to visit the website at carrollemploymenttv.com. Today, we're going to pick up where we left off with resumes, cover letters, but I also think it's important to elaborate a little bit further on experience, Dr. Mark. Would you please tell us why it is so important to include experience and be very specific about it?
Well, this is where the employer looks specifically to see if the experience that you've had in your career matches the requirements, the experience that they're looking for in the particular job. In other words, they're looking for the match. And this is where the candidate puts that match together. Now, a lot of people that have worked a career that are applying for new positions through no fault of their own, losing their job, being laid off, downsizing, they have to list experience that may be interchangeable, transferable to the employer's new job that's seeking help. So in other words, if you drove, you were a messenger, you were a delivery driver, and they're looking for some skills that require driving, you would try and tie that past experience with the current experience that the new employer is looking for. You start out always with your most recent experience first and go backwards to your first job. And it's also very important that you put in the dates that you were employed by that company. And you should do it by month and year. So when you were hired and when you were left, and basically a real brief summary of the major job duties that you performed while you were on that position. And the key thing is to make that as transferable as possible and how it relates to that new skill.
Now tell me, let's say I want to put a resume together. Where do I start? Where do I begin?
The best place to start with putting a resume together is to specifically dissect and look at that employer's job ad. What are they really looking for? And then you would construct your resume and your experience, leading that new employer to look at your experience, your education and credentials, and come together with a match as closely as possible. And that's how the new employer will take your resume out of 50 or 100 resumes that might be submitted and consider you for an interview.
Now tell me, if I'm applying for different jobs, should I tweak my experience? Should I change it to suit the job the job posting? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, every job is going to have different requirements and look for different experiences and credentials. So it's very critical that you modify your cover letter and your resume to specifically address the requirements that the new employer is looking. So you will not use the same resume over and over and over. Although it may be basically the same, there are key things in your experience that may be more interchangeable with job A as opposed to job B, so you would want to stress that and highlight that.
Okay, now speaking of stress, we all understand that if someone loses there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. You've got to get employed again. You've got a family to support. You want to put together a resume, it is sometimes overwhelming. Where can you get help for that?
There are a lot of sources, John, that can help in those regards. The first one is us. We're a community resource. We're doing this for a reason, to help our fellows that
certainly
need help out in the community to find employment. Family members, again, I would go to the internet. You have job service that's available. You have career placement if you went through the community college or a college where you graduated. The pool's quite deep. And if you just run out of places and you can't think of anything because you're in a state of panic, so to speak, put something together and send it to us through our website and ask us to take a look and ask for help.
Absolutely. I agree with what the doctor says. It's a very tough job market out there. Okay, we're here to help. We invite you to come on the show. If you're an employer, we'd love to have you. If you're seeking a job, send us your resume. We'll try to match you. We'll try and get you on the show. But again, if you'd like to have your resume critiqued or just need some pointers, visit the website. Okay, we will have a schedule of classes available. You can speak with someone on the staff, and the doctor will review your resume, take a quick peek at it, critique it, and offer you some advice. So the main thing is, don't panic. We're here to help at carrollemploymenttv.com. Doctor, moving forward, I think we've covered just about, we could talk for hours on the resume, but is there anything else that you think is critical just to get someone up and going? Let's say, you've just lost your job.
Right. I would have someone basically look at the resume that you've put together, make sure that the format follows function. Again, what's your career objective? What's your experience? What's your education and credentials? And that, yes, you do have references and you will provide them if there's mutual interest on both sides. Okay. I would always start there. Make sure that the spelling, and I know these are very basic things, but make sure that the spelling is correct. And make sure you address what the employer is looking for in their help wanted ad, whether it be on a job board or in the newspaper. And if you do that, your chances of getting a job interview have greatly heightened.
Fantastic. We'll be right back after this break.
Hey, answer your phone, so you texted you.
All right.
Rescue alarm 211, IVT 28, station 2, Baltimore station 43 is alerted. Vehicle collision serious, subject out of a car.
We have it as 3 injured and 1 person. 28, requesting aviation at 1546.
Collision with rescue and fire.
28 Carroll, also advised got 1 trap.
Welcome back to Carroll Employment Television, the show that matches employers with employees, where we try to give you the inside scoop on what employers are looking for during the interview process and during the resume review. Now, we also like to bring the actual person on the set who is hiring, okay? And Dr. Mark and I would like to ask them some questions. So that's why sometimes we say this is where the interview begins, okay? The interview begins here and begins now at carrollemploymenttelevision.com and here on the set with Dr. Mark Fraser and myself. If you are an employer, we'd love to have you on the show. If you're looking for a job, we'd love to have you on the show too. Email us your resume at johncarroll@carrollemploymenttv.com. We want to showcase some things here because we're trying to help people get jobs, and we've got Dr. Mark Fraser here. If you need help with your resume, by all means, email it to us, have the doctor take a look at it. We may have to start calling you the job doctor, doctor.
Well,
but what I'd like to pick up on, again, was the resume. We've briefly touched on a few things here. You could talk for hours about the resume. There's volumes of books written about resumes, the interview process. What we'd like to do is get to the short and narrow of it. We understand that when you're out of a job, you're out of a job. You don't have much time, okay? There's a lot of pressure involved. You need a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement, contact us. But getting back to the resume, doctor, could you point out some more highlights? You've got 2 pages as you recommended, okay? It's got to be clear, it's got to be concise. It's unfortunate, but you got to beat the next guy out of that job. How can you do that?
Well, again, one of the biggest things that we can do in a very brief summary is basically target our experience and our career objectives specifically to the job posting or the job want ad that employer is looking for. So you would highlight your skills and your education, and you would try and match as closely as possible what that employer is looking for. And the more you can do that, the greater your chances for being successful in the job.
Well, another thing I'd like to say too is you got to be consistent. Okay, if you have a resume, you know, we've already said send it to us. We know everyone's out there looking at the major search engines. I mean, the search sites online. The whole process can be overwhelming. It's just daunting.
Sure is.
You know, and there's people are hurting everywhere. You know, there's people out there trying to get mortgage modifications. They can't afford their homes. People can't get loans. You got to have a job, and it's what keeps the economy rolling. And there's supply and demand. A lot of people looking for work. Okay, not just locally, not just regionally, but nationwide. It's just incredible. And some of the unemployment statistics that have been quoted in the local papers, such as the Baltimore Sun, which I think we ran on the commercial, it's staggering. So everybody needs a little bit of help. We're here to give a little bit of help.
Exactly.
Right? We'd love to have you on the show.
John, you know, many of the jobs that are available aren't even advertised. If you think all the jobs in Carroll County are in the local newspaper, you're incorrect. A lot of the jobs are on job boards throughout our region. Sometimes the jobs are advertised outside the region, and many times they're taken through the HR department, and the HR department does a private search of posting the job in the factory or at the place of business, or they contact recruiters to help them find employees.
Right. You know, and again, excuse me, we do encourage you to submit your resume to us at John Carroll at Carroll Employment TV. We'll have the doctor take a look at it. But another thing I can't stress enough is you got to get out there. You got to network a little bit, okay? You just can't sit there and fire out 100 emails, you know, shoot your resume out all day long and expect something different. You know, it's like fishing. You may get something, you may not. But let me tell you, it doesn't hurt, and I think the doctor will agree, to go to some of your local networking events, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce, whether it's a networking group. Go out, introduce yourself, greet and meet. There's nothing worse than sitting at home and just hoping you get a reply from a resume, okay? If you got a few extra dollars for gas, throw it in the tank, go out, find an event, carry your resume, and greet and meet people. Not only will it'll make you feel better. Not only will it help you find a job, but wouldn't you agree, it'll keep you in the loop. You feel like you're socializing out there when you're at your lowest point.
And then the other nice thing about that, John, is many times there may not be a job available right then and there. But if you're talking to someone, they might say, hey, in the next fiscal year, we're budgeting for that position, or we think someone's going to be retiring next month. And that gives you the inside edge that you wouldn't have otherwise. And you're being proactive rather than waiting for it to show up in a newspaper ad.
Right. It's network, network, network. And you know what? Have fun with it. Okay? We know it's stressful. We know it can be daunting, but you will feel better. Go out, you know, greet and meet people. And don't be shy. You're looking for a job here. Even if you're not a salesperson, you're looking for a job. And we will have someone come on who is an excellent public speaker, and we'll give you a little coaching on public speaking. If you've never spoken before, this lady is fantastic, okay? And it just may be enough to get you through the knock on the door and putting the resume in someone's hand.
Very good, John.
You know, and she's wonderful. So, doctor, is there anything else that you would like to include before we take a quick break?
No, I think we've covered most of the major aspects of what we need to do in the resume. And if anyone, again, has any questions, have them look at our website, and we run periodic classes on how to prepare a resume, and we'd be more than happy to help you.
All right, fantastic. Just remember, CarrollEmploymentTV.com. We'd love to have you on the show if you're an employer or if you're someone looking for a job. By all means, contact us, and let's try and help you out, okay? We're here to ease the suffering and have a little bit of fun in the job hunt process, okay?
Very good.
We're here for you. Thanks for watching Carroll Employment Television. We'll see you next time.